Something dark is unfolding in hip-hop right now, and if you blink, you will miss the entire ambush. Drake just dropped Iceman. Kendrick Lamar is being attacked from angles nobody saw coming, and a long parade of rappers who spent years standing next to Kendrick are quietly slipping the knife into his back. We are watching a coordinated takedown try to rewrite history in real time. The names you would never expect have crawled out from under their rocks. The legends you used to respect are suddenly dancing in the comment sections of a man who stands for everything they pretended to fight against. And every single one of them has the same secret reason. They wish, deep down, that they were Kendrick Lamar. Every single one. If you are about to watch the most jealous, the most insecure, and the most hollow campaign in modern rap history unravel piece by piece, then before this video moves an inch further, do me one favor. Slap that like button into orbit, smash subscribe, and ring that bell, because what you are about to hear is not a normal beef breakdown. This is a full anatomy of betrayal. This is the receipts. This is the autopsy. This is how a king gets surrounded by people pretending they were never on his side to begin with. And by the time we are done, you will see exactly why none of this is going to save them when Kendrick walks back outside. Stay until the end. The last 5 minutes connect dots nobody in the mainstream wants you to see. Let me set the table for you, because the worst side effect of Drake's Iceman album is not the music itself. It is not the corny lines, it is not the embarrassing impression of a Chicago slide on Maid of Honor. It is not even the lazy bars Drake tried to dress up as inspiration. The real damage Iceman has done is far uglier than the songs. Iceman has handed every washed, jealous, forgotten artist in this genre a permission slip. A permission slip to crawl out of hiding and finally say the thing they have been chewing on for over a decade. A permission slip to attack the one man who actually still believes in this art form. A permission slip to settle private grudges in public chat. And that is where the rot begins. That is where the culture starts bleeding from a wound the headlines refuse to name. Because the truth is, Drake did not deliver a masterpiece. Drake delivered a barely listenable, barely competent collection of songs that only sound alive compared to the dead, lifeless projects he was floating out before this. After 2 albums of pure nothing, after 2 albums where it sounded like he was rapping through a yawn, Iceman is the first time in a long time he actually shows up with a pulse. And a pulse is not greatness. A pulse is not a classic. A pulse is the lowest possible bar in music. But because that pulse came wrapped in disses, in shots, in spite, in a war against Kendrick Lamar, the entire ecosystem around Drake suddenly acts like he just dropped Thriller. And that pretending, that mass delusion, that manufactured consensus is what brought the vultures back into the sky. It brought the worst out of him. It brought the worst out of hip-hop, and it brought the worst out of every washed legend orbiting the genre like debris around a dying star. The center of this storm is a man who now wants to be called untouchable. After flooding Iceman with shots at Kendrick, and let us be honest, no human on earth caught more bars on that album than Kendrick, Drake decided one round of disses was not enough. He sat back, let the project breathe, then resurfaced with the most arrogant social post of his entire career. The post that claimed his Iceman single passed a Michael Jackson record. The post that, according to chatter we have now seen surface, was almost the actual cover art for the album itself. Imagine the audacity. Imagine the moral confusion required to use the King of Pop's silhouette as a billboard for your own ego, while a Michael Jackson biopic is breaking the box office. That is not coincidence. That is not artistry. That is a man riding a dead legend's coattails to inflate his own moment and pretending it is genius. That is a man so starved for relevance he will rob a grave to feed the algorithm. But the Michael Jackson disrespect is only the surface. Read the caption. It is not subtle. It is not coded. It is not poetic. Neck broke from carrying the chain. Back broke from carrying the game. Records broken. Carry on my name. Carry on. Carry on. Translate that out of Drake's marketing tongue, and what he is really saying is this. Kendrick was never here. Kendrick never carried anything. Kendrick's reign in 2024 and 2025 was a hallucination. Drake is the spine of rap. Drake is the heart of the genre. Drake is the program.
And he's doing this on purpose, with full intention, because he believes the climate has finally cooled enough for him to lie at this volume and get away with it. He thinks the public has memory loss. He thinks the Super Bowl never happened. He thinks Not Like Us never happened. He thinks the last 2 summers were a fever dream. And worst of all, he thinks if he repeats this lie loud enough and often enough, his army of grifters will repeat it for him until the lie hardens into history. And right on cue, they did. The grifters lined up like extras on a film set. The co-signers powered up like a chorus of paid hype men. The comment sections lit up like Christmas. The script was passed around like a memo, and one by one, the masks slid off. The first cockroach to scurry under the spotlight is the man who has spent more time in Kendrick Lamar's shadow than any other rapper of his generation, Big Sean. The same Big Sean who has been measured, sized, weighed, and compared to Kendrick from the very first second of his career. From Control, where Kendrick essentially deleted him on his own song, to his most recent album that was so quiet, so flavorless, so forgettable, the algorithm itself almost refused to recommend it. That album was praised by exactly nobody. That album was treated like background noise. It tried to dress itself in the cloth of Mr. Morale and came out looking like a knockoff.
And yet the moment Iceman drops, the moment Drake fires shots at Kendrick, suddenly Big Sean appears in the comments section like a long-lost intern, dropping code emojis, cheerleading the same album that is openly insulting MJ, insulting Kendrick, insulting Jay-Z, insulting the integrity of the genre itself. He is not a fan, he is a hostage to envy. He is the man who saw his own peak passed by Kendrick a dozen times over and finally found a soft, safe place to vent that pain, under the post of another emotionally bruised superstar. And the symmetry is too perfect to ignore. The last real cultural moment Big Sean had in this game was the single Precision, which had the misfortune of dropping the exact same day Kendrick released the Like That verse. One verse from Kendrick erased the entire promotional cycle of another grown man. As Kendrick went on the greatest 2-year run hip-hop had seen in a generation, Big Sean's career deflated like a balloon left out in the cold. So now, with Iceman in the air, he gets to play pretend. He gets to act like the universe finally balanced itself. But everyone watching can see it. He is not celebrating Drake. He is mourning his own ceiling. He is using somebody else's win as a band-aid for his own loss. And that is not loyalty, that is grief in costume. If Big Sean was the appetizer, the next name on this list might be the most disappointing of them all, because the next name belongs to a man who used to be untouchable in conscious hip-hop, a man whose pen game once made backpackers weep, a man who is supposed to know better, Lupe Fiasco. And what Lupe has done across this Iceman cycle is genuinely sad to witness. Before the album even dropped, he posted a cryptic black screen with 2 words on it, Lake Como, the title of one of the most anticipated leaked Drake songs, a song fans were practically begging to hear on Iceman. He timed that post like a hype man. He whispered it like an insider. He performed Allegiance before a single Iceman track even hit the speakers. He told us where his heart was without saying it out loud. And that was not the first crack in his armor. Not long before that, Lupe was on stage, fumbled a verse, snapped at his own crowd, and in a fit of half-joking, half-bitter honesty, claimed that if it had not been for label politics, piracy, and the way Atlantic Records mismanaged his prime, he, Lupe Fiasco, would be doing stadiums. Stadiums. Pause on that word. Stadiums. In a genre where almost nobody is doing stadiums. In a moment where the one rapper actually doing stadiums is the same Kendrick Lamar that Lupe has been quietly resenting since 2013. That was not a vent. That was a confession. That was a man speaking into the mirror and seeing the silhouette of the artist he believes he was supposed to be. And the silhouette wore a Compton hat. The silhouette had Kendrick's catalog on its back. The silhouette did not bend for a label, and he knows it. Then the mask slipped completely. Lupe recorded his own freestyle over the beat from Drake's She Bang. And full credit, the man cooked. The bars were sharp, the breath control was clean, the wordplay landed. It was a galaxy-class performance over a beat Drake himself could barely scratch. But that is the whole problem. Lupe weaponized his actual skill that operates on a totally different planet from Drake, to glue himself to Drake's rollout. Why would a Hall of Fame pen go through the trouble of decorating somebody else's mediocre beat right when that mediocre artist is openly campaigning against the most important MC of this era?
It is not artistic curiosity. It is not friendly competition. It is a job application. It is a man trying to slide into a moment because his own moment never came. He didn't jump on a beat when GNX rolled out. He didn't freestyle when Kendrick swept the Super Bowl. He waited. He waited until the spite-coded album dropped. He waited until the campaign was anti-Kendrick. Then he picked up the pen. Tell me that is not a tell. Tell me that does not say everything. And every bar Lupe spits in service of Iceman is another receipt that the issue was never the labels, never the piracy, never Atlantic. The issue was always, quietly, painfully, that he had to share a generation with somebody named Kendrick Lamar, somebody who solved every door Lupe could not, somebody who turned conscious rap into stadium music, somebody who became the future Lupe was promised. And the worst part is, Lupe's pen is still elite. The talent is still there. The frustration is just that the talent never translated into the throne. And rather than build his own throne, he's pulling up a chair next to the man who's openly trying to torch the rightful king's house. And just when you think the betrayal pile can't get any taller, the West Coast itself coughs up its most embarrassing son, the Game. Yes, that Game. The Game who once stood on stages in Compton and physically passed the torch to a younger Kendrick Lamar. The Game who told the world Kendrick was the future. The Game who positioned himself as a gatekeeper, an elder, a sentinel of California rap. That same Game is now running point on Iceman propaganda like he's on Drake's payroll. He floods the comments of Drake's MJ disrespect post with laughing emojis. He pumps out posts calling Iceman the moment that restored rap. He literally redesigned his own profile picture to be a custom Iceman graphic, taking the glove and painting it red, like a teaser, like a campaign poster, like a man auditioning to be in the rollout. 21 years into his professional rap career, the most legendary thing Game can think of to do is wear another grown man's album as a costume. That is not artistry, that is not legacy, that is cosplay. And here's the part that should sting every West Coast fan. You don't get to pass the torch and then resent the fire. You don't get to anoint a king and then run interference for the invader trying to dethrone him. You don't get to stand on Compton soil and applaud a Toronto album that exists to insult the very lineage you helped build. If your ego could not handle the prince becoming the king, you should have kept the torch in your own hand. Kendrick did not steal his crown. He earned it on every single stage you put him on. He didn't lobby for it. He didn't buy it. He manifested it. He turned every promise you made about him into reality.
So watching the man who blessed him quietly campaign against him is not a switch in opinion. It is a confession that the blessing was never real to begin with. And once you accept how absurd Game's behavior is, the rest of the picture sharpens, because there are too many fingerprints on this album. Listen closely to a track like Make Them Remember, originally circulated as the alternate cut called 1 a.m. in Albany, where Drake spirals into shots at LeBron James, Kendrick, J. Cole, and Joe Budden. Read those lyrics out loud. Count the name drops. Count the I'm this like that, you're this like that formula. Stack it against every Drake album you have heard in the last 10 years. That cadence is not Drake's cadence. That structure is not Drake's structure. That pattern, I'm great like shredded cheese, that punchline DNA, is unmistakably West Coast. It is unmistakably Game, the exact rapper who suddenly happens to be Drake's loudest cheerleader, the exact rapper who suddenly had access to Drake's private jet before the album dropped, the exact rapper who is now defending every line on the project like he wrote it himself. Nothing is confirmed. We cannot stamp it as fact. The receipts are not all the way out yet, and we are not going to pretend they are. But the pattern is loud. The fingerprints are heavy, and Drake's history of borrowing other people's pens is not exactly a secret in this industry. So when a Hall of Fame West Coast veteran is suddenly behaving like a stockholder in a Toronto album that exists to bury the West Coast's biggest star, the question writes itself, and the silence from the people who could answer it is louder than any verse on Iceman. And the real tragedy is not even the betrayal. The real tragedy is what it means, because Lupe Fiasco and the Game are not nobody. They are not Big Sean. They are legitimate, decorated, lyrically respected pillars of this genre. They are the kind of rappers who are supposed to be the immune system of hip-hop. When they enable the slop factory, when they co-sign an album whose entire purpose is to weaponize lawsuits, silence speech, and assassinate the character of the most important MC alive, they are not just embarrassing themselves, they are poisoning the water supply of the culture. They are telling every young artist that integrity is optional if the right superstar offers you a seat at the table. They are saying jealousy outranks principle. They are saying it is fine to drag the genre into court as long as the man holding the lawsuit fluffs your ego on the way down. And that, more than any Drake bar, is the deepest wound on hip-hop right now. And then you have the megaphone, the mouthpiece, the man whose entire career is built on amplifying whichever side of a beef pays the most attention to him, DJ Academics. Because once the rappers fell in line, the media machine spun up too. Academics is now publicly insisting that Kendrick Lamar could never sell 300,000 units in a first week without artificial help. He is openly claiming the only reason GNX moved the way it did was because of a Drake lawsuit, a petition, a controversy, anything except the obvious, that the music was undeniable. He says Kendrick is a 265 act, a 275 act. He tries to file Kendrick into a small box, a niche box, a backpack rapper box, while the entire planet still hums Not Like Us in unison, at sporting events, at weddings, at gas stations, in elementary school cafeterias. It is the kind of historical revisionism so brazen, so insulting to your intelligence, it actually tells you something important. The people pushing this narrative know they lost. You only need to rewrite the scoreboard when you can no longer win the game. You only need to gaslight the audience when the receipts are stacked against you. Because let us actually look at the receipts the propaganda machine is hoping you forgot. To Pimp a Butterfly moved over 320,000 units in its opening week back in 2015, an album with no radio plays, no hit single strategy, no pop crossover bait. Damn cleared 600,000 in its first week and printed a Pulitzer Prize on its way out the door. Mr. Morale, an experimental therapy session disguised as an album, still walked itself to nearly 300,000, and GNX, the most replayable, most chart-resilient Kendrick album in years, parked songs at the top of the charts for week after week after week, fueled the Super Bowl, fueled Reincarnated, fueled Gloria, fueled an entire cultural year. To stand in front of a camera in 2026 and claim Kendrick is some kind of underground curiosity is not commentary, it's gaslighting at industrial scale. It is the propaganda arm of a movement that has run out of legitimate weapons and is now reaching for the only weapon left, your forgetfulness. And that is what this all really is, a propaganda system, a fully designed, fully oiled, multi-layered propaganda system. Fans, podcasters, jealous rappers, on-call media personalities, comment section soldiers, narrative laundering YouTube channels, all working in unison to wipe one man's accomplishments off the wall, to take a peerless 2-year run and shrink it into a footnote, to take a Super Bowl performance that paralyzed the country and call it a fluke, to take Not Like Us and pretend it was luck, to take a Pulitzer and pretend it was a participation trophy. They can't beat the work, they can't beat the catalog, they can't beat the awards, they can't beat the stadiums, they can't beat the impact. So they're betting on the only thing they have left, your memory. They are betting that if Drake repeats a lie long enough, you will forget what your own eyes saw. They are betting that the algorithm is louder than the truth. But here's the part they're not advertising. Here's the part they pray you don't connect. If one man, one quiet, withdrawn, low-output artist who has only released a handful of solo songs in the last few years is generating this much panic, this much organization, this much coordinated attack, that's not weakness, that's gravity. You don't assemble an entire counterintelligence operation against a rapper who is irrelevant. You don't weaponize legends, mobilize bloggers, repaint your profile pictures, and disrespect Michael Jackson's legacy to take down somebody small.
You only burn this much oil when the man you're trying to bury still has the loudest shadow in the room.
They are not attacking Kendrick because he is finished. They are attacking him because they finally have the smallest, narrowest window in years where he is not in the booth. And they know the second he opens that booth back up, the window slams shut on every one of them. They are sprinting because the clock is ticking. They are screaming because the silence is coming. Because the word in the cracks of this industry is simple. Kendrick is coming back outside. Not in shadow, not in subliminal, not in mystery. Outside, while Drake is outside, while Iceman is still warm, while Big Sean is still posting emojis, while Lupe is still freestyling on other men's beats, while Game is still wearing Iceman as a profile picture, while Academics is still rewriting first week numbers on a live stream. Kendrick is going to step onto the exact same field, in the exact same air, in the exact same moment. And when he does, none of these people have a plan. None of these people have a defense. None of these people have a song that survives proximity to him. The Iceman is going to meet the sun, and the math after that writes itself. The temperature is about to change. The forecast is already in the room, and not one of these so-called challengers brought a coat. So when that day arrives, and it is closer than they want to believe, Drake is not going to be carrying the game. He is going to be carrying excuses. Big Sean is not going to be celebrating. He is going to be deleting. Lupe is not going to be freestyling. He is going to be explaining. Game is not going to be a gatekeeper. He is going to be a cautionary trail. And Academics is not going to be rewriting numbers. He is going to be reading them back in real time on a stream he wishes he never started. The same comment sections that pumped Iceman are going to turn into morgues. The same headlines that worshipped Drake will pivot overnight like nothing ever happened. That is how this always ends. Grifters never go down with the ship. They just hunt for a new one. And before you scroll, sit with one last truth, because nobody on the other side will say it out loud. Every legend on this list, Drake, Lupe, Game, even the media voices propping them up, had a real chance to be the artist Kendrick became. They had the platform, they had the pen, they had the years, and one by one, they ran out of road. So when you watch them swarm a man who simply kept walking, you are not watching a beef, you are watching a regret reunion, a class photo of artists who blinked when greatness called. Kendrick is not their rival. Kendrick is their reflection, and the mirror is louder than any verse they could record. That is why this hurts them. That is why they are screaming. So tell me in the comments, what do you think this really is? Is it jealousy dressed up as opinion? Is it career CPR from rappers who watched their peaks pass them by? Is it a coordinated PR play, a Scary Hours 4 setup, a stealth recruitment drive to give Drake his hip-hop card back by stapling Lupe and Game's pens to his next rollout? Or is this finally the moment hip-hop wakes up and remembers who actually carried it through the last 2 years? Drop your verdict below. Tag the rapper you think folds first when Kendrick walks back outside. Quote the bar you think ends this entire era. And if this breakdown gave you even one new angle, do not let it die in your feed. Like it, share it, send it to the friend who still thinks Iceman is a classic, and subscribe so you don't miss the moment the entire house of cards comes down. Because it is coming down. The only question left is who survives the collapse, and right now, the answer is shorter than the Iceman track list. So stay close, friend. The next chapter is writing itself in real time, and you don't want to miss it.